Tonight on VSRF Live, we speak with Canadian mother Kayla Pollock about the life-altering neurological injuries she suffered after receiving a COVID-19 booster shot.
I got vaccinated. Partially it was because of the fact that my dad was in long-term care. In order to go see him, I had to get the vaccine. I took my 2 Pfizers, and then when I went in to take my booster, I thought it was going to be Pfizer, but they had let us all know that Pfizer was not available to adults anymore. They were saving it for kids. It was my Moderna vaccine that definitely caused the damage. So I had woken up by myself and I realized I was paralyzed.
Hello and welcome to VSRF Live. I'm Livio Sanchez. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. During the COVID era, governments around the world repeatedly assured the public that the vaccines were safe, effective, and necessary to protect both individual health and the greater good. For many people, that message became more than a recommendation. It became a condition of employment, the ability to travel, and in many cases, a requirement for participation in everyday society. Those who raised questions were often dismissed. Those who reported injuries struggled to be heard. Meanwhile, discussions about vaccine injury were absent from the public, leaving many people unaware that serious adverse events could even occur. But what do you do when your story doesn't fit the narrative? What do you do when your life is permanently altered by something you were told was safe? And where do you turn when the systems you trusted to protect you are unwilling to acknowledge what you've experienced? These are not abstract questions. For many people, they are lived reality. Tonight's guest knows those questions firsthand. We'll hear the remarkable story of Kayla Pollock, a Canadian mother whose life forever changed after receiving a COVID-19 booster shot. We'll discuss the devastating neurological injuries that followed, her ongoing rehabilitation, her lawsuit against Moderna, and her experience navigating Canada's vaccine injury support program. Most importantly, we'll hear the story of a woman who refused to give up despite overwhelming physical, emotional, and financial challenges. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to ask for your help. Most of you have probably already signed it, but if you're joining us for the first time tonight, the Vaccine Safety Research Foundation has launched a petition calling for a review and appeal of the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, legislation that granted liability protections to vaccine manufacturers while leaving many injured individuals without a clear path to accountability. If you believe in transparency, informed consent, and a system that fully recognizes and supports those impacted by vaccine injury, we encourage you to sign and share. Please take a moment to do so now. It takes less than a minute, and it sends a powerful message that patient safety and accountability must remain central to public health. Janet will place the link in the chat. And now, without further ado, I'd like to bring on the founder of the Vaccine Safety Research Foundation, Steve Kirsch. Steve, welcome to VSRF Live. How are you this evening? And you are muted. Let me give you a little prompt.
All right. Sorry about that. I sneezed. So did that? I'm not sure if that came through, but yeah.
Oh, it did. I heard it loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, doing well. I had just had eye surgery, so my eyes are pretty bloody. This eye here. Let's see.
And is that the dark eye?
That is the dark eye.
Will the surgery assist in any way, or is this just
yeah? I can see better out of it now, and I can see on both sides of my eye. The central vision is very blurry, but peripherally I can see on both sides.
Wow. And before, when I asked you, you couldn't see anything. Even last week, I think I asked you, and now you're seeing. So there is potential that you can get some long-term vision back.
Well, this is probably about as good as it's going to get. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
I wanted to mention something on your Substack. As you know, Fauci spoke at Stanford and was really touting the misinformation superspreader. And I saw that you sent an email to Stanford, to the organizer of the event, offering a conversation. Can you tell me what you sent and the response?
Yeah, I thought it would be helpful to the Stanford community to hear both sides of the issue, because Fauci was characterizing anti-vaxxers as people who have their beliefs, and we have our beliefs in what the data says, what the data shows, and it'd be nice if we could actually talk about it and have a civil discussion about it. And so I offered that we would be happy to come to Stanford, and it'd be great to have a panel between Stanford medicine professors and people who disagree with them, and so that the community, the Stanford community, could hear both sides of the issue.
And how did they respond?
They ignored me completely, just as you'd expect them to do. Right? Because anyone who challenges authority is ignored.
Yeah, and you offered some major experts and doctors and scientists in the field to join you at this conversation, and still
absolutely, yeah, totally, yeah. It's basically we don't want to talk about it. Let's not discuss it. That's their attitude. And they didn't even give me the courtesy of a reply.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if they said no, thank you, at least just a response,
and just to acknowledge that you exist.
Yeah, that's the difference in the world we live in today. It really is it's why we exist. It's why the VSRF continues to do what we do, because so few of us are talking and we continue to be ignored. Mm-hmm. Well, let's bring on our guest, because she has an incredible story to tell. Kayla Pollock. Kayla, welcome to VSRF Live. Thank you for joining us. How are you this evening?
I'm not too bad, a little tired, but thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm glad I was able to make it. Sometimes illness gets in the way and have to cancel a lot. So thank you for having me on. It's a good opportunity.
Well, we truly appreciate you coming on, even though it's a little late in the day for you. I want to read your bio before I turn you over to Steve. Kayla Pollock, a Canadian disability advocate, public speaker, former educational assistant, and former exotic animal trainer, whose life dramatically changed in 2022 when she developed transverse myelitis following a COVID-19 vaccination, leaving her an incomplete quadriplegic and full-time wheelchair user. Before her injury, Kayla worked extensively with exotic animals, including lions, wolves, bears, parrots, and primates. She later worked in Ontario's education system and became known for her work involving disability, awareness, accessibility, and service animals. Following her injury, Kayla endured a lengthy hospitalization and rehabilitation journey while navigating profound physical, emotional, and financial challenges. Today, she has transformed that experience into advocacy, speaking out on behalf of the disabled and vaccine injured while promoting informed consent, patient-centered care, healthcare accountability, and greater support for those facing catastrophic injuries. Kayla, it's an honor, and thank you for joining us this evening. And I want to remind everyone in our audience, we will be having Q&A, so if you have questions for Kayla or Steve, please put them in the chat, all caps, and I will get to as many questions as possible. Okay, Steve, take it away.
Okay, well, Kayla, it's nice to meet you. I've been reading your posts on Twitter. Let's start with, how are you today? Are you quadriplegic today? Are you able to move your arms? What's your situation?
So I am still quadriplegic today. I do have some use of my arms, but as you know, incomplete quadriplegia just means that you are fully or partially paralyzed in all four limbs. So I have, two of my fingers are paralyzed, my hands curl in a bit. I have no feeling on the back side. I have a limited tricep usage. But below the chest, I am completely paralyzed in every single way. Bowel, bladder movement, other than spasms, which are involuntary movements, like that are as a result of this. But unfortunately, I still have all the feeling. So when somebody gets something like restless leg, and they really need to move it because it hurts, or just things that your body would normally do. You're sitting in a position and you want to move. I can still feel that, and I'm unable to move or get out of it. So can't get dressed on my own, can't bathe on my own, can't cook, can't do anything that's not supervised and fully helped. So that's where I'm at today, and that's medically, yeah.
So this is after your Pfizer shot. You had two Pfizer shots and a Moderna booster. After the first two Pfizer shots, did you have any side effects, or was it the
No,
Moderna booster that did you in?
yeah, I took my vaccines because my father was dying in long-term care. I was previously type 1 diabetic. I had been my whole life well controlled. And so in Canada, I don't know exactly how it was all over the rest of the world. At this point in time, I was a 35-year-old mother of a 7-year-old boy. I worked at his school. My father was dying in long-term care. And in order to work at my job and in order to um, see my father dying in long-term care, I had to be tested daily for COVID, and I had to be first two vaccines. Now, in Canada, they were saying that if you had secondary or any type of diabetes was exclusively listed on there as being very much at risk for having extreme complications from COVID-19, such as death. So I believed that this was something like the 1918 flu pandemic that took out half the world because, I mean, the WHO was telling me this, the CDC is telling me this, all of our news. I had no idea that our news was censored. I didn't know what the word censored really meant online. I had never experienced anything about it. Uh, it was I had some friends that were not taking the vaccine, and we still to this day are friends. I just didn't. I was pro-choice, but we couldn't travel, we couldn't eat at restaurants. We had police that were allowed to arrest us in Ontario for having public gatherings with family. But meanwhile, our premier of Ontario was caught having a big Easter bash at his cottage with all his family while telling the police to, call the police on your neighbors if you saw them having gatherings. So it was a very stressful time, and I did not have any idea that being paralyzed from your vaccine would be a side effect. It wasn't listed, that's for sure. Um, and so that's why I took it, and that's what did me. So 2 days later, after my Moderna shot, I had a few episodes within a few days where my legs gave out, and it was only for a brief period of time. The first time was about 20 minutes, and I was able to actually get up after and move. There was no pain, but it reminded me almost of when I had cesarean sections. So when you have a cesarean section, you get that epidural, you know what it feels like to be paralyzed because you know you can't move. So it wasn't like I tripped. And so at first I'm thinking, well, maybe I have a nerve injury, or I didn't think about my vaccine. It wasn't a thought. It happened a little bit later on. And again, I called my doctor and we discussed it. And he said, look, the wait in Ontario right now to see a neurologist is a couple of years or more because of COVID. He said the hospital's not going to give you any scans or anything because you're walking and doing everything still. They're going to tell you that it's something to follow up with a neurologist about. They're going to take some blood work. That's all they're going to do, and you're walking and doing everything fine. So, we'd agreed that there was really nothing I could do at that time. And then a little while later after that, I had gone for a hike the day before, and everything was fine. No injuries, no slips, no falls, no pain in between, during, after. And I woke up on February 22nd, 2022, paralyzed from the neck down completely. So
Wow.
that was the beginning of my day at 5 a.m.
Any doubt in your mind that it was caused by the Moderna vaccine?
No, not at that point in time. No, no. The
Did your
symptoms started, like I said, at first, like I said, the first time I fell, or was my legs gave out, is what I say. I didn't think anything of it being related to the vaccine at all. The second time I thought about it, the third time I knew people don't just wake up quadriplegic. This is something like I couldn't think. This is not a type 1 diabetes, association. this is not how MS would present. Like there's something going on and it needs to be figured out. And I thought it would be reversible. I'd be lying if I told you that I didn't think I was going to walk out of the hospital. But I get taken to the hospital by ambulance that day. And the first doctor comes in and he takes the board off and the neck collar off, and he says, well, the good news is that I don't think there's anything wrong with you. I think it's all in your head, and I'm going to order a psych consult. So I'm thinking, well, that would be great, but I'm thinking that's not what's going on. But I can't argue with this doctor who already thinks I'm clearly a psych case. Like, what am I supposed to say? No, I'm not. And I said, is it kind of like a false pregnancy? And he says, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so can't you just give me some psych meds and it will get better? And he goes, no, you can only get better and you're only going to be able to walk when you decide that's what you really want. And I'm like thinking, this sounds psychotic to me. Maybe I am crazy. And then, I'm just going, this is not real. Like, maybe I'm in a bad dream. I was left in there all alone, and then I put in the hallway, and then all of a sudden I get this excruciating neck pain. I never had any pain previous to any of this. I'm in the hospital that morning. I start screaming, and I have all these nurses telling me to shut the F up because remember, I'm just that psych patient now that I'm screaming. And then one of the nurses came over and she hung a bag, and I said, what's that? And she says, it's morphine. And right away, I knew you don't give a psych patient morphine. You'd be giving them some sort of sedative or some sort of antipsychotic. You wouldn't give a psych patient morphine. And I knew at that point in time that they knew, or that doctor who passed me off knew damn well that it was some sort of vaccine reaction. So they'd already got all the tests back for COVID. They'd already got all the infection screens, all the blood work, things like that. And they did a drug and alcohol test, obviously, things that just the normal blood work, nothing further. And so I'm going, okay, now they're giving me morphine. This isn't adding up. So I told my boyfriend to lie and say he was my husband to come in. He finally got in. And I said, every time anybody walks in the room, you put my finger right on that record button. That's it. For the rest of the time, everything was recorded. I took audio recordings of everything because I knew that they knew. And eventually a young doctor walked into my room and he said, look, I don't believe this is in your head. I think there's something seriously wrong with you. I have a friend who's a radiologist at home. He's willing to read your MRIs if you go in the machine right now. I'm like, let's do it. That took a long time. They were MRIs with and without contrast, and head MRI as well, obviously. So this took quite a long time. And he came back to me and he said, well, the good news is we have a diagnosis and we can treat it. And the neurologist came in and he said, we've ruled out with the spinal tap and everything, we've ruled out you don't have an infection, you don't have MS, you don't have cancer, you don't have, all these different differentials, right? So then he says, I would say this is a direct result of your COVID vaccine. And it's not unusual it's a rare diagnosis. Transverse myelitis is what they gave me as a diagnosis. He said, but it is a known vaccine reaction. And I said, have you seen this before? And he said, oh, with the COVID vaccines? And he goes, many, many times. And I got that on audio recording. And then he wrote it all down in my chart as being caused by the COVID vaccine. And then I was put on a 5-day course of high-dose steroids, which obviously was quite a journey with trying to control type 1 diabetes on that. So I had to actually have, because I couldn't move from the neck down, I had to have my boyfriend come in and feed me. He also had to come in and give me my insulin because they couldn't control it. So I knew how to control my diabetes much better after 20 years than they did. So I had an insulin pump on. I was using the insulin pump plus exterior insulin. They did allow it because they couldn't keep it under control. And within the 5 days of high dose steroids, finally, I started to be able to kind of turn my head and move my shoulder a bit. And then I spent 6 months in rehabilitation And by the time I got out of rehabilitation, I had the function I have today, which is partial use of my hands, um, some tricep usage. So I'm essentially an incomplete, roughly sitting around the functionality of around a C4, C3, C4, C5 quadriplegic, depending on what it is, because it's an incomplete. But it still means I can't dress myself, I can't bathe myself, I can't cook, I can't clean, I have no bowel or bladder function, so I am catheterized. I have to have daily disimpaction. It's not as simple as people think, you're just in a wheelchair and that's it. And, I ended up, the amount of meds that I came home with, I ended up just saying, I'm not taking opioids. There's nothing good that can come of that, especially when your life has just been altered by this serious condition. I thought I was afraid of becoming addicted to them. I was able to come off of all the laxatives and stool softeners and then all these different meds that there really wasn't, like, if you just ate healthy, you could probably get rid of a lot of these things yourself. So it took me a long time to slowly start to wean off of everything they put me on. And today I still have to take baclofen for spasms and some pregabalin, I've cut the doses way down. So those are the only two meds that I have to, really kind of rely on in order to have some functional life. But it's been a hell of a journey, um, especially going back to the hospital after coming home, and I come home and there's no home care supports. They promise that you're going to have these personal support workers show up that are going to get you out of bed and they're going to bathe you and they're going to help feed you and all this. And they were not showing up. So I'd be laying in my bed, completely unable to roll over, move, anything like that. And it got to the point where I was just so suicidal because I was laying in my bed 24/7. I was not being turned. I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't do anything about it. And I ended up going back to the hospital and saying, like, I really need help. I don't know what to do. And that's when they offered me medical assistance in dying in Canada for the first time. And that's when I decided that, okay, that was a good idea. There was no treatment. There's no support for it. So their social worker gave me the email address. I sort of corresponding back and forth with the person to fill out the paperwork. And my son, who was 7 at the time, just happened to ask a question about, do we put dogs down? Did we put people down the same way we had to put our dog down to sleep? And I go, they do in some countries. And he goes, well, did they do that in Canada? And I said, well, they do, but only for, like, imagine, like, you're a mom and you've got cancer and you're in so much pain. And I really gave the case for medical assistance in dying being used in what I would consider an appropriate way. So I said, there's no treatment options left. She's in severe pain. She wants to be around her kids and her family. And he just looked up to me and he goes, don't you think it's God's decision when you die? And I couldn't fill out the paperwork anymore. I knew that there was a reason that had happened. And I remember just being so angry, looking up one day and saying, why did this happen to me? And, I didn't hear a voice, but it was that you know how to public speak. You did not lose your voice. I had already been a disability advocate. I had trained service dogs for people with type 1 diabetes. And I actually was able to go on stage with the world famous dog whisperer back in 2010 at the Air Canada Centre in front of 19,000 people. And he handed me the mic, and he was the one that was on Oprah and working with Jada Pinkett Smith's dogs and everything. So I knew I could speak, and that I had some disability purpose. But then I worked with exotic animals and then exotic school children. And I ended up helping kids with disabilities after feeling that animals were a bit too dangerous with having a son. And I really appreciated the life that these poor kids had to go through, and even the ones with autism or just special needs in general. I loved my job, and waking up paralyzed that morning, I lost my job. I lost my house because it was a 3-story house. I lost my son because I had to find wheelchair accessible housing. So the only right thing to do, because I couldn't get him to and from school, was to say to his dad, who thankfully we had really, really good relationship, but to say to his dad that he had to take my son like full time. And that was the worst part of all of it is I've got a 7-year-old son that I'm now seeing on weekends instead of every day of his life. I worked at his school. And so even when it wasn't my parenting time, I still would see him. Um, and then I lost everything. And I decided that if I was going to have to live with this, then I needed to share my story. And I sat down and told my family, I believe if I share this, it's going to be really big. And I don't know how I'm going to take the pressure. And my son said to me, he again was 7, and he said, well, he was 8, sorry. He said, if you don't share your story, Mom, then what if other people are afraid to come forward and share their stories? And that was it. It was a done deal. John from the Canadian Independent interviewed me, and that's when I started to share my story. That's my son pushing me in my wheelchair. That's the wheelchair I'm in now. I had to go from a wheelchair like that to a power wheelchair. That's the service dog right there in that picture that people helped raise funds for. And unfortunately, she's behind me on the couch. I'm sure you can see her there with a cone on her head as she just had cancer removal surgery.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, that was, I guess it was on Friday. Or I can't, you know what, I've been so busy, I don't even remember what day it was now. The 26th. So she's recovering from that, but she's no longer able to work as a service dog. So
Oh wow.
in a lot. My
So
dad did pass away in long-term care, so if I'd never been vaccinated, I never would have got to say goodbye to him. Um, and so I tell my story. I don't say to anybody not to take the vaccines. I believe in pro-choice. I believe that if you want to take a vaccine, then that's up to you. But coercion is what happened with us. And I don't believe in coercion or taking, like, the act of, we weren't forced, we weren't literally, tied down and injected, but we were, the word coercion. I mean, you've got a lawyer who could explain the legal definition, and that's what happened. And so I don't believe in that. And I had lots of like friends that weren't vaccinated that I was friends with them and I'm still friends with now. Same with medical assistance in dying. I don't tell people that it's wrong, but I don't believe it should be pushed on people or offered to them, especially when you're asking for help, not to be put down, euthanized. Um, and so my story, I just share my story, the facts, and I say do with it what you need to or want to do with it. But I'm willing to tell my story to anyone that will listen. Um, and you know, hope that the right people hear it, because I know how much censorship I've gone through on all these platforms. I mean, I'm sure all of us have gone through that.
you've been
Um,
censored on platforms
oh
for
yeah,
saying what happened to you?
oh yeah. I've been
So,
deleted off Facebook, Instagram. I've even supported it with legal documents. I've supported it with medical documents, YouTube.
why why did they delete you on YouTube and Facebook and all that? Did you violate community standards by
No,
doing
I was
something?
called misinformation because vaccine injury is misinformation, as you know.
So because you're vaccine injured and you talked about it as this injury was from the vaccine, which is what the doctor told you,
Yep.
they banned you from the platform.
Yep. And because I was talking about medical assistance in dying, now it's happening on X. Ever since I started talking about, there's been a lot of debate about medical assistance in dying in Canada because it's now being talked about. Yeah, we're in the process of deciding, are we going to offer it to people who are mentally ill, and are we going to also offer it to children that aren't even of age to decide these things? And, the Americans always think, well, we don't have to worry about that. I believe it's 13 states that it's legal in doctor-assisted euthanasia. If you could fact check that for me. Could be more by now, but I believe there are 13 states that somebody would be able to list off that have it. I know Kelsey Sharon often talks about it. But you know, yeah, I've been censored. I didn't know what censorship was back in the time. So people say to me, you should have known, we were trying to tell you. And I'm thinking, if I'm trying to sell my story now with legal papers and doctors' charts to back it up, imagine how censored they were back then trying to tell us not to take the vaccine and why. How could I have got that information? And I wasn't looking for it. I had an X account, but I signed up for it when I was a teenager and thought, why would someone want to write a couple sentences on a social media post and think that was fun? Now I realize why they were on there and why, back then, it was more free than some of those other platforms. Now it's the only place where I have a chance of my information getting out, for me personally.
So let me ask you about the transverse myelitis. Did other physicians confirm that diagnosis?
Yeah, actually, it was only a few days ago that I had a second neurologist take a fresh look at everything. And I was shocked because most physicians will not come out and say, yeah, your vaccine caused this. Not only do I have it on audio recording, he wrote it in my chart. And I was actually shocked that he was willing to say it because it's, thank you, that for the California, Colorado, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, and Washington, D.C., 14 states that offer the same thing as Canada. Don't think it's not coming to you. So, yeah, he did confirm that again, and I did file a lawsuit against Moderna, exactly 2 years to the date. So it would have been February 22nd, 2024, and that's public. It's on there as well. And we're in the pre-trial stages at this point in time. So I figure the longer that they don't deal with it, the longer I get to tell my story. I'm in no rush. If, even if they were trying to settle, the longer they don't settle or they don't do something, the longer I can openly share what's happened. So it's not a loss by any means.
So yeah, in the U.S. we have PrEP Act immunity for the vaccine manufacturers. That's the there's a comic I like to show where the girl being vaccinated asks the nurse, does it provide immunity? And the nurse says, only for the manufacturer.
Ah, that's very good. That's clever.
So can you sue Moderna if you're injured in Canada, or does the government indemnify them and prevent you from filing a lawsuit?
So here's the loophole in Canada. When the vaccines came to Canada, Trudeau came on and said two things. First of all, there's this vaccine injury it's called the Vaccine Injury Support Program. So anyone who takes the vaccine, and there's going to be maybe 400 people in all of Canada, he predicts, that are going to be injured in any way minorly by this vaccine. Now, this prediction turns out clearly to be very wrong. So does the program, but we'll get to that. So he promises that if you take this, they're going to compensate you financially for life. So God,
that's a relief,
right? Yeah, exactly. What a relief. I was dumb. I was young and dumb. I didn't know that I didn't know the news and the government were connected and that they paid that. I had no idea. I didn't know, honestly. So that was one promise. And then what happened with Canada is behind Canadians' backs, the deal that was made is if you sue Moderna for $45 million or Pfizer for $45 million, let's just say, so you win your $45 million. Moderna or Pfizer or whoever you're suing pays you, but then the taxpayers or the government, who is funded by the taxpayers, pays Moderna or Pfizer. So financially, they're completely off the hook. But in my opinion, guess what? Your name's not off the hook. So that's still something. But the taxpayers weren't told this. So it's the most people say, well, I'd rather my tax money go to someone as injured as you than to wars. And I'm like, guess what? It doesn't matter where you want your tax money to go, because it's not going to go where you want. It's where it's being it's we have no control over that, but that's the problem. They not only paid all this money for this vaccine injury compensation program, but now they're basically saying that if you sue the company and win, their taxpayers will cover the bill for the company. And
Right,
not
because
that, but
we can't have the company actually paying out of their own pocket. That would be
that would
really
be,
unfair.
then they wouldn't come to Canada and give us those meds, right?
Right,
And then we
right.
wouldn't be scratching those back.
So you can sue Moderna then
Yep.
in Canada.
Yep.
There's no
But of
liability
course, most
protection.
people are past their 2-year statute of limitations by now, finding this out. Because again, it
Right.
was censored information.
What, that you could sue Moderna?
Yeah, nobody knew that. There's only 2 of us that have lawsuits in all of North America. I have a trial by jury
Wow.
against
Well,
Moderna. It's trial by jury in my hometown where I took the vaccine.
well, good for
And
you.
there's one other gentleman who sued Pfizer with the same lawyer I have, and his is a death claim, so it's more difficult. But and he has unfortunately gone through the courts with a few other dismissals, and he was turned away by the vaccine injury compensation program. So unfortunately, that didn't work out as easily for him. But for me, I ended up going on a very mainstream media show, and they had whistleblowers from the vaccine injury support program that came on and said, look, we had over $50 million. I think by now it's over $111 million put into this program, but I think it was about 14% of it went to vaccine injury, and the rest went all to overhead. And they said that they were drinking at work. They were mostly high school students that didn't know what they were doing. They played ping pong. They had Netflix. They brought their dogs to work. They were smoking. I'm like, I wonder if we were providing the alcohol too. Because it was government run. So we shut down that program, and then the Public Health Agency of Canada took it over. So every 30 days, I file a Freedom of Information Act, and they give me a piece of paper that says, we cannot list the doctors reviewing your medical file because we do not yet have doctors reviewing medical files. So 4 years later, 5 years later for them, I've never seen anyone still alive that's more vaccine injured than me. And they haven't even reviewed my medical file yet.
Okay. So how much are you suing Moderna for?
$45 million.
$45 million.
Yep.
Does your lawyer think you'll be able to recover that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. How long will it take?
It's been 2 years, and the longer they keep it, like I said, I don't know how long it will take. We're in the preliminary stages, so it's been allowed to go on like this. And
Why is this? Why does it take 2 years? What are we waiting for? You're injured. You could appear in front of a jury. What is Moderna asking for a 2-year extension so they can do what?
oh, they just try to toss like all these, in one part of their response, it says that our vaccine does not cause transverse myelitis. And then in the next line, and I'm paraphrasing, it says, if our vaccine does cause transverse myelitis, you should have known about it, basically. And I'm like, does it really say that?
Wait a minute. Was it in the list of side effects?
No, that's what they wrote as a reply. They wrote something along, paraphrasing here, that one sentence period was, our vaccine does not cause transverse myelitis. And then the next paragraph said, paraphrasing, if our vaccine does cause transverse myelitis or did cause transverse myelitis, you should have known about it. But when you open in Canada, you go to the pharmacy and you ask to open the box of the vaccine, and you open the booklet, it says no product insert. Like it's blank. There's no,
Wow.
Everything else.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
buy like yeast
Okay.
infection cream, you're gonna get a product insert.
So after you were injured, did you call Moderna and say, "Hey, I'm injured from the vaccine. I think you should know about this because you should probably investigate this case"?
No, my lawyer did that.
Well, I mean but that's after you engaged a lawyer. This is.
No, he found me
I'm so,
actually.
what? Almost immediately after
As soon as
after
I,
you were injured?
yeah, no, basically almost 2 years later when I decided to come out with my story, immediately he said, I can take that case.
No,
Uh,
no, no. But so my question is, after you were injured, you woke
right,
up paralyzed.
right.
When did you reach out to Moderna at all to say, hey, I think I found a
No,
side
I,
effect?
I, I reported it to our VAERS system. My
Okay.
doctor reported it. I believe that's the system that lets them know that this vaccine has caused this side effect.
Okay.
So
So
I thought that was enough.
right. Let's see. Transverse light is recognized as an extremely rare potential side effect of the Moderna vaccine. Okay, so I've established a statistical association. Okay, so it can. So Moderna then lied.
Oh yeah,
That's unbelievable.
is it?
That they would lie in court? I mean, they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to tell the
Oh
truth.
well, guess that's up to the jury to decide.
So when you got the transverse myelitis, I'm not an expert on transverse myelitis by any means. If you were to look up transverse myelitis in a textbook, do people are people normal the day before and then they wake up paralyzed? Is that how transverse myelitis presents itself? And maybe we can bring Angela on.
It, yeah,
To,
it can present that way. Usually there's a little bit more of a lead up, like for instance, my legs giving out.
right.
That would have been early signs of it.
So people can be stricken with transverse myelitis just like that. And I'm not talking about vaccine induced transverse myelitis.
In general,
So
yeah.
so Angela, for transverse myelitis in general, before the vaccines rolled out, how would someone with transverse myelitis be diagnosed? Would they wake up paralyzed from the neck down as their first symptom of transverse myelitis?
It could. It could be pretty instant like that, or it could be a gradual numbness and tingling. That's why there's a lot of differentials to determine whether you have MS or transverse myelitis, which I'm sure, Kayla, you went through.
Yeah.
I'm not a big expert in it because I actually, in my 17 years of being in the hospital systems, I never saw it. I saw
Wow.
Oh yeah, it used to be
it's,
1 in a million.
it's so rare. I've never seen it in my career, although I managed pediatrics and labor and delivery, and I would go down for the trauma. So it's not really my area of expertise. I didn't work in
Right.
like a neuro department. I did have a couple of cases of GBS following the flu
Yeah.
vaccine, but transverse
It's very
myelitis,
similar-ish.
yeah, no. Luckily with GBS, it's ascending and descending, and if you treat it aggressively and appropriately, most patients can get on with their lives and
That's what I thought I had, and that's why I believed I could at least I believed that okay, well, this is a vaccine side effect that is known about, so I should be able to take appropriate treatments and get my
Yeah.
life back together. But unfortunately,
Yeah. So I mean, I was kind of hoping that the transverse myelitis comes on differently. It presents itself differently than what happened
exactly
to
what
to
Angela said.
Kayla, in which case you could have said, Your Honor, or to the jury, say that, hey, because of the way the transverse myelitis presented itself in my case, it is not a normal. Oh, it was just a coincidence. Transverse myelitis. This is a transverse myelitis that is specific to the vaccine injured. So
Well,
my
actually,
second.
Steve, it did come on more gradually because, as you remember, I had those episodes right a few days later of that, like, Angela had described like a numbness or tingling. Well, mine was
Right.
a
But
right
you
to
said
go.
you when you went to bed, you could
Oh yeah,
use
I was
all
fine.
four
Yep,
limbs.
yep. And there are
And
lots of people. Yes.
when you woke up 8 hours later,
Yep.
you can't move from the neck
No,
down. How
exactly.
did you even call the ambulance?
Remember I trained service dogs. So I had our dog. I told our dog to go downstairs to get my boyfriend. Well, the dog, for once in his life, didn't listen. He went down the stairs and then he turned around and I could hear him come back up. And I'm thinking, no. So then he would go back down the stairs and he would come up. And I'm thinking,
Oh
he's not
wow.
doing his job. He went down the stairs one more time. Finally, my boyfriend comes up and he goes, something's wrong with the dog. He keeps coming up and down the stairs. I'm like,
Jeez.
it worked. He got his attention. It worked. I was
My
like, he was
gosh.
bringing him to me. I said, I went into complete
Oh,
hush mode.
wow.
I'm sure Angela, from working in the ER, you can identify when your brain just goes, it doesn't matter how gory or graphic something gets. I'm going into triage mode. And so my brain, because I had worked with exotic animals, it was every fear thing just shut down. And I went into, okay, call the neighbor next door who was a nurse and her husband's a paramedic. Call them because they're right next door. Call 911 and tell them I'm quadriplegic. I knew my boyfriend had no idea what that meant. I knew that I was quadriplegic. I had extensive medical knowledge. Remember, I'm type 1 diabetic. And so I'm thinking the vaccine likely already interfered more because I already had an autoimmune condition, which they were telling people if you had autoimmune conditions, you were more at risk of dying of COVID. So that's exactly what the neurologist said. He said, because you had this, it was a deadly combination. They should never have told people that. He even says on the audio, it's all over my X feed. He says, do not ever take another COVID vaccine again. Like he's just a normal guy. He's no vaxxer, anti-vaxxer. He's not into any groups that we could be grouped into as being far right wing. He's just a normal doctor saying, this is what it is, and he's agreeing completely with the first doctor. And I was shocked that he actually did.
Right.
Good
Right.
for him.
So the doctor said when you asked about the hey, have you seen any other cases? And the doctor responded many times. Was the doctor referring to transverse myelitis cases,
No.
or was the
With
doctor was talking about just vaccine injuries?
Yeah.
Vaccine injuries in general.
Neurological vaccine injuries, yeah.
Do you know anybody else in Canada who had transverse myelitis right after their COVID shot?
Yeah.
How many people?
I know 5 people in Canada that were diagnosed with transverse myelitis after their COVID shot. And they also have medical documentation and things like that. Unfortunately, they did not sue and cannot sue now because they're past the statute of limitations.
Wow.
Heartbreaking.
Angela, how many vaccine injured do you know that have a transverse myelitis?
Well, Dr. Joel Walskog has transverse myelitis. There's been other people that it's hard to tell whether it's GBS or transverse myelitis, like Amanda, who Steve. Amanda was paralyzed for 4 months after her COVID vaccine. She couldn't get up. She lived on a couch for 4 months, completely paralyzed. There's been so many, and I think the most tragic thing of it all is these patients, had they been treated very early on, immediately and believed, I truly believe they wouldn't be in the predicament that they are. I remember multiple months in my vaccine injury where I was feeling a lot of first mine started off as cardiovascular at the 12-minute mark, but then it developed and progressed to neurological symptoms. And I was having all sorts of jerkiness. I felt like I couldn't really open up a can properly or lift a cup. I was feeling clunky, almost like I had MS, like my legs were jerky. I felt like I had foot drop. And I was lucky to have a neurologist where I could just go in and they'd put me right in the scanner. My reflexes were super brisk. And they're like, this is really bizarre. It's not okay. We're seeing it a lot with these vaccines. And they would just put me on super high dose steroids. And many of them wanted to put me on methotrexate and other drugs to shut my immune system down because they knew that these vaccines were causing an autoimmune reaction. And by giving high dose steroids very early on, I think is what saved me from, longer term neurological issues. But there's been a lot of people that have been paralyzed. One of my dear friends who passed away, I don't know if you remember Steve, Ray Galvin, very close friend of mine. He also had severe neurological issues. And so there's tens of thousands of people that have had these severe neurological issues that were gaslit and not believed. And it's one of the most unfortunate things in medicine is just to not treat early. And these patients are living with lifelong conditions. And so I've never seen anything like this before with other vaccines. Now, as we know, with all of the other vaccines, the autism, the brain inflammation, but I think this is a whole new ball game. of these paralyses and neurological problems that we're seeing with the COVID shot.
And imagine I had gone in with just the two symptoms of, oh, my legs didn't feel right. I mean, if I was psychiatric when I was completely paralyzed from the neck down, what would they have said to me when I went into my saying, oh, my legs, collapsed on me? Clearly, that just proves that they weren't going to treat me anyways. Like that was not what they were there to do. They also, like, our hospitals are so backlogged, that we have socialized medicine. I focus most of my advocacy work on the fact that people are told, like, there's all these immigrants that are told, come to Canada, we've got lots of jobs for you, we've got free healthcare, it's a beautiful country. The government tells them to come in, they bring them all in, they can't afford them, and then we all blame the immigrants when most of them come in expecting to actually work and actually do things. There are obviously handfuls of criminals that come in for other reasons, but there's a lot of really good people that come in and then they realize that they couldn't take care of their own country people, I want to say Canadians, and they brought them in, and now the healthcare system is so much more overwhelmed. And I am not the first person to be diagnosed as having a sight condition while going in with a vaccine injury. That is so common.
So common. That, depression and anxiety. I mean, you get offered medications for those, but not for your actual vaccine injury. And now you're being offered things like MAID. I mean, that's what's even more sickening.
3 times.
Yeah, you're vaccine injured. We're not going to treat you, but we'll help you end your life. It's like, thanks a lot. And unfortunately, I've had several close friends who have actually gone and done that because they felt like there was no hope. There was no research. There was no treatment. These were very near and dear people to me. And I have some that are still contemplating it in Switzerland. I had a friend down in LA who went and did it in Switzerland. And it's so sad. And I'm so sorry that that's what they offered for you. Instead of actually taking good care of you, that's what they offered to help you out.
Did the injury program, did you apply to the injury program and did they help you out at all?
No, of course I applied, but first they lost my application, they said. So I sent it by registered mail. And then remember, I had applied, got, I think it was 7 or 8 different caseworkers. Then I was approached by a major news outlet, a major mainstream media outlet. I was quite shocked they were willing to do the story.
Yeah,
that was very well because they didn't. I'm still a very rare vaccine injury apparently, but they were doing the program was a 5-part series on the actual program and where the money had gone and who had actually been compensated and what they were actually doing with the money. And that's where they had that whistleblower come on and say what they were doing at work. So that's when they shut down the program. They started, I always like to say the fools took over on April Fool's Day. So as of April 1st, the Public Health Agency of Canada took over the program. And since April 1st, we are now in June. They still have no doctors that have ever been used to decide whether or not I even have a claim. So there's nobody looking at my case, even though it's in black and white. It's already been reviewed by doctors. They just have to stamp it, basicly.
So it's been how many years now since you filed?
It's been 3.5 years.
3.5 years. Nobody's looked at your case yet.
No, sorry. It's been 4.5 years. Oh, yeah.
4.5 years. Nobody's looked at your case yet.
They've looked at it,
and you have the most severe case.
That of people that are alive. Right. There are death cases that I would consider.
Okay, so you would think that you would be prioritized at the head of the line.
It's the same in the U.S., Steve. I mean, the denial rate for the CIC.
No, but she hasn't been denied. She's not denied.
No, I'm not denied.
It's the same as me.
They haven't reviewed her case yet, Angela.
I know.
She's the first in the queue.
Yeah.
She should be the first in the queue.
She should be reviewed and paid out immediately. But in the U.S., they're doing the exact same thing. There have been people that have been denied. I applied right away. It's written all over my charts. Moderna, vaccine injury, from the moment I stepped foot into the emergency room. And they have looked
and
at
you're a nurse.
they've asked for medical records, and 5 years later, they haven't accepted my case or denied it. People are just sitting in this like holding pattern. So I'm in the holding pattern as well for my.
And we know why, right? We know
Yeah.
exactly why, because then other people that come after us are going to be like, well, if they haven't got it and they talk that much and they're the squeaky wheels and they're not getting the grease and it's that severe, what chance do I have? And then they stop replying.
Yeah. Well, and the
Yeah.
payouts here in the U.S. are so insulting. I mean,
Oh,
I
they're
think the
very
average payout is
insulting.
about $7,000, and
It's
I mean, it's such an insult. I think the first 6 months, I probably paid anywhere from 45 to 60. I don't remember at that point, but just trying to save my own life because
yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing, everything just to try and get myself better. And so to offer $7,000 is like, it's a joke.
It's $200 for me to get to the hospital with my wheelchair if I needed to go to a non-emergency to the closest hospital, which is about 17 minutes away from me.
How do you
One
how do you pay
way.
the bill? How do you pay
I
the
was
bills?
paying the bills with donations, but I had an organization called Operation Kayla INC, but I'm going to be shutting down the company because it costs more to keep the company running than it does for me to the donations just don't come in. I mean, Canada's in a recession as people probably know right now. Nobody's doing well no matter where they are because, things have just been politically up in the air. And I think it's like people have already heard my story and they've, either figured, well, there's not really anything they can do, or, they've already heard it and done their best. And even just sharing helps. But, I don't think they realize how expensive it is. Or they think, well, it's not going to happen to me. But like, let's look at vaccines aside here. You could walk out your front door tomorrow, trip over your shoelaces, and literally be sitting in my chair with all of the same problems in Canada, at least I can speak for, where we don't have people to come and get you. We don't have like physiotherapy. You'd think in free healthcare, socialized healthcare, that physiotherapy for a quadriplegic would be not only necessary but covered. It's $350 a week for me to do physiotherapy. Can't afford that anymore. I would fundraise for a service dog. I still have to feed her and insure her. Can't afford that anymore. It's my rent went up because wheelchair accessibility costs more. Everything costs more. Our vehicle is a luxury vehicle because it costs over $100,000 for a wheelchair accessible van because of, not because it's cool inside, not because it's a van, but because it's the most basic model of a Toyota Sienna at 2019 that you can get. But because of all the wheelchair accessibility aspects of it, it makes it like a customized vehicle. Everything is more expensive. The muffler was 4 times more expensive because it's a custom muffler because the van has to lift and go up and down. So people do not realize how much more money it costs me if something breaks on my wheelchair. I mean, this is a $35,000 wheelchair. I would be happy if someone gave me a $35,000 car. I don't want a $35,000 wheelchair. I don't even want a wheelchair. But these are things that people don't think about. And it could be you.
It's so sad though, Kayla, because I mean, even suing for $45 million, that's peanuts for what you've had to endure, what it's robbed you from, the life that you had prior, the relationships that you had, the fact that you could run
My
around and play with your
son.
son. I mean, it's like $45,000 is nothing for what's
45 million.
I mean, $45 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, is
But then
nothing
you also have to pay the lawyer.
what's been taken from you.
And you don't think that there are heartbreaking cases that I want to give to?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the girl that is 12 years old, or was 12 years old, who was in the Pfizer trials and was, you don't think that I think about her mother every single day? Because if it's better me than my child, all I want to do is help kids with disabilities. And so it wouldn't be, and even just getting a wheelchair accessible house that's cut, I can't reach the dishes in my cupboard or my sinks or anything. So even just getting a house where the doors are wide enough, that is millions of dollars. Like, I'm not talking about a big house. I just need a 3-bedroom house, a bedroom for me, a bedroom to store all of the medical supplies, and a bedroom for my son, a basic bungalow with a wheelchair ramp, and I don't even need land. That's it. I just need it to be wheelchair accessible. we're looking at like $2 million for just that. And I'm not looking
Crazy.
at, the coolest country or the biggest house or the best interiors. I'm talking basic, just things that you would assume people would have access to.
Yeah.
How is your son, Kayla, doing in with all this change and how much it's taken from him and you and the family dynamics? I can't imagine how hard. I've seen it with other children, with our friend Amanda's son who, had to go through that. He had to be like the caregiver and push his mom around in a wheelchair, and it's really difficult. I can
You know
only imagine.
what? My son took it so much better than I did. I remember sitting him down when he was 7 and telling him, like, having a really serious sit down with him and saying, like, mommy has to pee through this tube for the rest of her life into this bag, and mommy has to possibly wear a diaper for the rest of her life, and mommy could have an accident. And he sat there and he's like, Mom, I used to pee and poop in my diaper, and my brother, because his dad has a son as well, like his dad and his wife have a son, so he's got a half brother. He goes, my brother pees and poops in his diaper, and we still love him. Why does it matter? That's what he said to me. And
Sweet.
then, one day I get a phone call from his teacher. Remember, I worked at his first school the whole time he was there, and then his stepmom works at his school now. So he's never done anything wrong because he's been followed his whole life. And I said, you're going to be terrible in high school, aren't you? And he goes, no. But I get a phone call one day from his teacher, and I'm thinking, why are they calling me? Because his stepmom's there, and if he's in trouble or hurt, like his dad's right there, why are they calling me? And she said, are you okay if I send Mason's homework assignment to your member of parliament? And I'm like, what homework assignment are we talking about? And she goes, oh, his diorama. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. What did he do? And she's like, oh, he said that you couldn't get to the skate park because there was no path, and you couldn't drive on the grass with your wheelchair because you would get stuck in it, and no one was strong enough to get you out. So he figured out how much concrete it would cost and all the other people that would benefit, like the moms with strollers and everything. And he did it all on a budget page, and he built this diorama. And I'd like to send it to your MP. And I'm like, if that's the reason I'm getting a phone call home, absolutely. And then I talked to him, and she said he's got all the other people in the class looking at accessibility and disability rights. A lot of other kids did their projects. We were at Tim Hortons. He was about 8, and he got me a wheelchair accessible table. He was so proud of himself. Mom, I got this. And I went to get under, and I wouldn't fit under the table. And he goes, it has a wheelchair on it. And I said, I know, honey, but it's for manual wheelchairs, not power wheelchairs. And he goes, then why can't they just put a lever on it? And I said, listen, that's something you didn't go to school for. That's $1 million idea right there. You could sell to all sorts of restaurants. And that's something that because of the situation. So he has been such an inspiration. The words that come out of him are just crazy. He is so much become a better human being because of this. And
What a
so if that is, and we are very close. We were before, but everything's just open. We talk about everything and anything. And at one point in time, he was in class, and he was getting like a medium-ish science mark in his class. And I said, I honestly believe that you could be the smartest in science and everyone in your class. He goes, well, this kid gets better grades than me. And I go, you're doing biology. I said, you are way smarter than any kid your age. You can do this. And he goes, why would I want to get a better mark if I'm already getting good enough marks? I go, good question. I said, well, you'd feel really good about yourself if you did. And you're smarter, trust me. And you know what? He not only got the Perseverance Award, he got the Science Award. He got the best mark in the class that year. And then he started asking the librarian for biology books, and she's like, we don't have those. That's high school stuff. And I'm like, see, how do you feel? And he's like, I felt good about myself. And I'm like, did you feel good about mom? He's like, no. He's like, he was like, no, I didn't do it because you told me to. I was just like, oh, it's a proud mom moment.
So sweet. I think that these children of severely vaccine injured patients are they're just going to be some of the most compassionate, loving, and changing the world type of human being.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen it a lot with other
Totally
vaccine injured kids. Is like they just have such a heart, and when they see something so catastrophic happen with their own parent, They might be the ones. I mean, we're trying to change the world right now, but they might be the ones that will be able
I
to.
tell him that mommy can't stand up for myself, literally, because I can't stand up. So someone's going to have to do it for me. And it could be his voice. And I explained to him how me being one person speaking out about my experience became a snowball effect, and that one person can start to help change the world by joining groups of people. Like, for instance, us having this chat tonight. He sees this type of thing and he'll be able to say, my mom then grouped up with these people and then grouped up with these people, and they all came together for a common cause, and they used their voices collectively. And so each one of us individually is one person changing the world. And so he gets to witness that. And I hope, if anything, that that's a lesson he learns in his life, and about the
So
hardships and how you get through them.
is he watching this now?
Oh God, no. This is boring. He's heard all this before.
He's heard it all.
He's 11. This is boring.
All right, Livio, we have audience questions.
Yeah, hopefully the children of the vaccine injured can carry the torch and be heard. I just wanted to comment before I get to the questions on, I didn't know that we had a MAID program in the United States. Steve and Angela, did you know that? Were you aware?
No, I didn't know that.
No. Only the people that I've known have gone and left to go to Switzerland.
It's not called MAID. It's called physician assisted suicide, I believe, or physician assisted death. But those 14 states, they do have
There's
it.
an organization
Right,
called
there it is.
Compassion and Choices.
Yep.
And here are the states,
Yep.
as was mentioned earlier: California, Hawaii, Montana, New York, D.C., Colorado, Illinois, New Jersey, Oregon, Washington, Vermont, New Mexico, Maine, and Delaware in the year that they were enacted.
And we're counting. It's continuing to rise, especially lately.
In fact, they have a map here with current states in legislation.
There you go.
In the
So
in
you
the
look
blue
at that
states.
whole U.S. map and you look at that.
I'll just click
And
on
you
my
didn't
state,
even know.
Massachusetts. There it is. There's on January 16, 2025, the End of Life Options Act was introduced. So I had no idea. I still remember when Dr. Kevorkian was completely demonized. So yeah, it's
and it's being used on right now. We're looking at expanding it to patients with psychiatric conditions only. We're looking at expanding it to children who can't make voluntary consent. It's gone from people in palliative care to now we're being offered, and there are veterans. For instance, there's a veteran in Canada from Quebec who is a Paralympian and an Invictus game winner, and she was vaccine injured, and she was offered medical assistance in dying instead of, because they wouldn't put in a wheelchair ramp even though she couldn't get up and down the stairs, and so she was offered it, and she has it all in writing and everything. She's been on mainstream media. I'm not the only one being offered it. And it's not like a casual offer. It's like, this is what we have. And think about how suicidal somebody that gets a new, or how, not even the word suicidal, but just how depressed and depleted you would be if you woke up paralyzed from the neck down. You were told you were going to end up living in long-term care like that. I mean, you could just make that decision. And we have a pamphlet in Canada that says, mental health care roughly takes about 4 months to access in Canada. You can access MAID within 3 months. And I thought it was a sick joke. It's called Dying with Dignity. It's a pamphlet. And I thought it was like somebody was like making a meme about how bad MAID is. And I thought like, that's not real. And then I realized like, this is real. This is being passed around. So if you're having a bad moment, and you have like a bad case of depression when you're in your 20s that lasts more than 3 months, we're looking at, you could be dead. Like, that's not okay to offer. Can you imagine that's offered to your son or daughter in their 20s? Can you imagine that was offered to you in your 20s at any point in your life when you just had a low?
Can't even imagine.
That's part of our normal life.
We're all like, yeah.
What happened in suicide prevention and dignity in living?
We don't have that anymore because it's not funded. They actually came out in Canada and they gave us a budget perspective that this MAID program, expanding it, will save trillions of dollars. Trillions it will save. So we should all be running to sign up. You should be supporting it and pushing us to do it because it will save trillions, they're saying. Why
There is
on
no
earth do we even want to post that information?
there is no
Terrible.
depopulation agenda going on.
No, not at
All
all.
right, let's get to some audience questions. First one from Grandma Kiki. Did Kayla track the batch and were others injured from the same location or batch?
I did track the batch number. It is also in my lawsuit, but I am not aware of how to get the information as to how or who or if anyone else was injured from that batch. So I don't have an answer to that part of the question.
That'd be interesting to find out.
It would be.
If that's a possibility.
Ask Moderna, they would know.
They should.
That was a joke.
I don't think they would actually. I don't think they have a list of individuals who got each batch number.
Fair
You
enough.
think they would?
No.
I mean, VAERS knows, but they don't have
Yeah,
their.
theirs knows, but it's private. And then
Question-
also in Canada.
Well, can you look up the batch number in your VAERS system and
You can't get access to any vaccine injury requests anymore. They locked it in Canada for 14 years.
for 14 years? That makes sense.
Yeah, of course, because we only lock up information that we don't want people to have. Like, it's important information.
Correct. Yeah. What is their reasoning behind locking it up for 14 years?
I have no idea. I can't remember because it was
Same
just,
reasoning that Pfizer wanted to lock up their information for 75.
Well, no, it was 72 years. That would it was just manpower in order to produce the records. That was the reason.
oh, I think that was pretty similar. Yes, it was something about 36 million pages or something like that with our vaccine injury as well. It was something
How about
about
AI?
paperwork.
Wait,
I'm like, you know what? I've got nothing else to do. We've all got email. Send it out.
Yeah.
We'll go through it.
Yeah, we can all make a team to go through it.
Question from Dr. Laura. Did they recommend IVIG, intravenous immunoglobulin, for your transverse myelitis?
That was not a option, and I asked about it and was told that I was not a candidate.
Why?
I was never given a reason for that. I certainly know now I was definitely a candidate and that could have very much helped. But at the time, I mean, literally was paralyzed in the hospital and had no idea what was going on. I couldn't go even on the internet and ask anybody or connect with people. I mean, couldn't get in my, like, think of it. I had no phone. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. I was,
Right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It was staring at the walls. It
Right.
was jail time.
Yeah.
Question from Connie Tate. Has Kayla been made aware of the benefits of DMSO? A Midwestern doctor has published extensive clinical info on their Substack, and there is clinical evidence that it can help with spinal cord injuries.
Yes, I have used it, and unfortunately, it did react with one of the meds that I do have to take. It did react with my baclofen, and unfortunately, that's one thing that my life would be full of spasms without, and it is extremely painful and life, like, it's like having mini seizures in front of people all day, and it's uncontrollable. It lasts for extended periods of time, and unfortunately, because I was taking a pharmaceutical or am having to take this now, I'm not able to use it safely. But I do see naturopaths. That's the way to go, that I go. And I've only been able to afford that through donations. So that's basically all coming to an end as of right now.
We need to help fundraise for you, Kayla. Can we put up her?
Yeah, I'll put it up shortly how we can help her. But let me ask a couple more questions here. Vida Olga 7 asks, who is the lawyer and does he have social media to follow?
He doesn't go on social media because he gets too many requests from vaccine injured individuals wanting a lawyer. And he also wants to stay out of the drama, but his name is Omar Sheikh, and he's in BC.
Omar Sheikh?
Yep. from Sheik Law, and he's in BC.
Okay, if Jan, if you can put that in the chat, that'd be great.
Is that the same lawyer, Kayla, for Dan Hartman?
Dan, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
we've had him on our show before. He's
Yes, that's right.
he's
Yep.
a fabulous lawyer.
Yep. Yep. He's been on your. That's correct. That's right. Yep. I've
Go
totally
tell
forgot
it.
about that.
Go Tell It on a Mountain asks, I have a hard time interacting with people who I believe were seriously injured by the COVID shot because I can't talk about the cause of it. I just want to cry. Any suggestions?
Can you repeat that so I
It
can
says,
take?
I have a hard time interacting with people who I believe were seriously injured by the COVID shot. I'm wondering if they mean themselves,
Right.
because I can't talk about the cause of it. I just want to cry. It sounds like they're having a hard time interacting with people with their injury, and they can't. People don't want to believe them. Is what it sounds like. The question is.
I'm
Any
gonna be really
suggestions?
honest and say that I get at least daily somebody that says to me, you know what, you took the vaccine, you put it in your body. We tried to tell you. You were probably one of those people that were telling us all to put masks on and that we were all killing you, yada yada yada. Or they just say that they don't believe me, that I'm making it up, that I'm grifting. I would say if you're not ready to interact with them or comment with them about, if you're not as comfortable sharing it, don't feel pressured to share it. You know, if you're not comfortable with it and that it's not the time, otherwise you really have to realize that there are some people that don't want to hear it because they also took the vaccine and they don't want to believe it's already in them and there's nothing they could do. So you really have to learn that it honestly has nothing to do with you. It's on them. So if you tell them, you are not alone. They have probably heard somebody else. I think we all know a bunch of people who have been injured by the vaccine. Everyone I've ever talked to knows somebody that something happened to. So if they choose to not believe you or that it's difficult, I would say either just avoid the interactions about it if that's what you feel emotionally. I've had to get grief counseling because it's a huge piece of grief to lose the health part of your life. So that would be my recommendations for that.
He also could be saying, Livio, too, that sounds like he might have a lot of empathy for people that are vaccine injured, and when he talks to them, he just wants to fall apart and cry, and he doesn't know how to cry. That's what I was going to say.
Honestly, I've had it before, and I feel a lot of love from people like that. So
just come up to you and cry.
Yeah.
They want to pray on you and cry.
Yes, exactly.
That's the question, Angela. I'm reading it again. It is
that
he believes we're seriously injured. And I don't even.
But at least
I don't bring it up anymore. I used to, but I don't bring it up. It's too hard for them.
It's really sweet to see people when we do a lot of these conferences that we've put on, that VSRF has put on, like Defeat the Mandates and the litigation conferences. One of our producers of the event, Amanda Damian, was the one who was paralyzed for 4 months and seriously injured. And I can't tell you how many people come up and just pray on her or bring her a little gift or cry and hug her. And all of these people who didn't take the shot or not injured or who are smarter than we were or more awake than we were, it's really sweet to have them come up and just give us love. So
100% agree with that.
Keep doing what you're doing, and it's okay to cry.
It's okay to cry. It's not offensive at all.
Okay, here's a question from OSIRU Soft. OSIRU Soft. I guess he asks his questions regularly, and I guess I don't ask it. So he says it won't get asked, but hey, it's the same question as last week. Have any of you considered heavy metal burden as an enhancement to your injuries?
Oh, like heavy metal detox probably is what he's referring to.
Oh, heavy metal detox. Yeah,
well, like a chelation,
there's only so many detoxes that we can do also without harming ourselves. I mean, if I had to list all the things that have been recommended, and think I haven't tried, from acupuncture to Reiki to chiropractor to DSMO to taking steroids, like not like, you know, metabolic steroids kind of thing, to you know, different just different detoxes. I just eat all organic, healthy, fresh fruits, vegetables, meat. I do eat red meat. And that's it. I stay away from processed things. I just do what I can from the outside of my body. And all the other stuff costs so much money. The supplements, the things like that, that at this point in time, it's too much to keep a roof over my head, let alone afford any of these supplements anymore.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like I'm at the or to afford treatments from any of these places anymore. It's too expensive for me. It's not even an option. Do I wish that's what $45 million would get me? It would get me care that actually comes in and helps me. I had a wheelchair accessible house, and that's all I would want. I'd invest the rest and then start donating to disabled kids in Canada and to policy changes and working towards that.
Mhm.
One more question from Grandma Kiki. And I'm assuming you're aware of Senator Ron Johnson here in the United States, who's been an advocate. And is there an equivalent to Senator Johnson in Canada?
No, I haven't ever once been directly contacted or asked into Parliament. I've screamed from the top of my lungs and tagged everyone I know to let me testify in Parliament for what's been going on, even just with the vaccine injury compensation program. By the way, they changed it to the vaccine impacted assistance program because we're no longer injured, we're just impacted. That's
Impacted.
yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, that's how they had to change it because we're
Good to
just
know.
That sounds a lot better. That
it
sounds a lot
it
better.
sounds so much better for them, right?
That does sound better. Yeah,
Yeah, you got it. We have to admit, it sounds a lot less severe.
it
So
does.
honestly, yeah, there's. I'd be happy if a Canadian MP reached out and posted my stuff.
Do you think Justin Trudeau knows about you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really? How do you
Yeah.
know?
Well, when I asked ChatGPT, it tells me that. No, I thought there's no way, but then, I'm not saying he individually knows. I think that his people are aware
Yeah.
because it's been in mainstream media. It's been in all these independent circles. It's been on Alex Jones. It's been on Tammy Peterson. It's been on all these big people, places that they have their eyes on. They don't want those people to have platforms. They want them censored. So and the reason that they keep censoring me and putting me off is because they don't want to, if they compensate me, they're going, holy crap, now everyone knows. Like, they don't want to compensate me because it'll affect my lawsuit. My lawsuit doesn't
Totally.
want to do, like, think about it. They're like competing. None of them want to take responsibility. So they're thinking, okay, well, she'll either die, take MAID, or give up. I know that.
They're going to try to outlast you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a survivor. Outwit, outlast, outplay. Isn't that what the game used to say?
Yeah. Kayla, how can our audience help support you? What's the best way they can support you right now? We spoke a little bit before the show, but what can you let us share with our audience? What's the best way to support you now?
Well, I do have a Gives and Go set up. I don't particularly use my website anymore, as I said, because the website's great for information, but as far as donations, it's a little harder because the company's costing more than I'm getting in donations a month to run the website and everything. But this is not only does it go towards getting a new service dog that can pick things up for me or do things like that, but it also the remaining any remaining funds that go in there, and I post receipts. I have no problem posting my receipts. Any remaining funds would go towards, for instance, my spinal cord treatments. They can donate directly to my spinal cord treatments at it's called Walk It Off spinal, I think it's spinal rehab. And I do have, it's in Newmarket. Yeah, that's it. Oh, can you guys see this as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this it?
And so and if you go to client, donate to a client at the top here. Yep. My name is right there, Kayla Pollock, and then you'll see it absolutely goes right to my treatment. So then people can't say you're grifting, because who really wants to go to physiotherapy? I'm just saying it's not. That's they've been a registered charity long before I ever became injured. So
It's
that's another way.
walkitoffrecovery.org/Kayla-Pollock. And Janet will put the link in the chat as well as the one to help the Give Send Go, which I had up a second ago.
Oh,
Here
that's
it is.
user. Yeah,
This one here as well.
that's where I'm hoping to get to get my to get the majority of things going in there. Just because that gives me the option of using it for even things like I have to look for a new place to rent because the landlord can't afford the house, so he's gonna have to sell the house, and that means I could be even further away from my son. And I have to find somewhere that's wheelchair accessible. It's more expensive to rent wheelchair accessible. Or just things like supplements we were talking about, or all these little things that we talked about throughout the show. Anything extra would go to that, towards those things. And like I said, will always post my receipts. No problem with that. I don't want to say anything ever in front of millions of people that could potentially watch or rewatch over the years and have them say, "Oh, you lied," because that would, to me, that would be the most embarrassing thing ever that could happen to you on the internet. So I want to make sure that I put my receipts out there so that people that say I'm a grifter can just do their research on their own and they can find out that it's all there.
Yeah. Good.
Well, Kayla, you are a warrior. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It's unbelievable. It's heartbreaking. It's unbelievable. And I really wish you all the best and that this lawsuit makes it to trial, to a jury, and let the people support you. That would be the best outcome at this point.
We'll keep fighting for you, Kayla.
I really appreciate you guys having me on. You're doing a good job with everything that you've been doing.
Thank you.
And I know that, a lot of people tune in and really get a lot of strength from your show. So
Thank you.
The invite.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, Angela, for joining us this evening as well. Appreciate you coming back on VSRF Live.
It's been wonderful to meet Kayla. Ever since this happened to her, she's always been in my heart. So, my heart, my prayers, and so it's so great to see you, Kayla. And I'm just amazed by your strength and your wisdom and your perseverance, and you give us all hope too. So
well, I have a book coming out, so you can read about how I was able to get that strength from the beginning once the book comes out, and I'll give you guys an update as to when that is, and
let us know. We'll put it out there. We'd love to have it.
Do you have a name for the book yet?
No, that's the last thing. Everything is done, but there's
no title yet.
Not a name.
All right.
You might
keep us updated.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. Steve, hang in there for a few more seconds. Everyone, hang on. I got some announcements and a video you're going to want to watch at the end. But again, I want to remind everyone that VSRF is a small grassroots nonprofit, and everything we do is made possible by your support. And if you're able to donate, I know we want to actually direct your attention tonight to Kayla's. So go to her website and donate there. We also have our site. Text VSRF to 53555 or visit vacsafety.org/donate. And I want to also remind everyone, if you haven't already, please take a moment to sign our petition to appeal the 1986 Childhood Vaccine Injury Act and share it with your friends, family, coworkers, and across your social media networks. And thank you for being part of this and for helping us continue this mission. Janet will put the link in the chat for that. Great. And then next week,
how many signatures do we have on that, Olivia?
Over 17,000, Steve.
That's awesome.
It's good. It could be a lot better. So we still need your support to share it out there. Even if you signed it, share it with your friends. But yeah, we have over 17,000, so that's good. But it could be a lot better. Next week, Steve, we are planning to have Dr. Angus Dalgleish and Dr. Asim Malhotra for an important discussion. Both physicians are scheduled to participate in Senator Ron Johnson's permanent subcommittee on investigations hearing tomorrow on plausible mechanisms linking COVID-19 injections to cancer and concerns surrounding attacks on scientific publications. We look forward to hearing their firsthand perspectives on the testimony, the hearing itself, and the broader scientific and medical implications. We're trying to get them on. Right now, I believe we're going to get them on, and we may try to get Senator Ron Johnson to join them if he's available. So that should be a really good episode. And Steve, tonight, as we close, we're going to share a powerful 1979 60-minute segment featuring Mike Wallace. In this remarkable report, Wallace examines the devastating injuries linked to the 1976 swine flu vaccination campaign, a government-backed effort that urged Americans to roll up their sleeves in response to a feared outbreak. And as you watch, you may notice some striking parallels to more recent public health campaigns. And what's remarkable, Steve, is that the legacy media used to report on this, on vaccine injury and on the propaganda surrounding vaccines back in the 70s and 80s.
It's not anymore.
They don't. Not anymore.
Yeah.
But
no.
it really...
It's not allowed.
It's not allowed at all. But I was only going to play the first 4 minutes, but I've decided I'm going to play the full 15-minute segment because it's that good from front to back. So
Great.
Everyone, thank you for being here tonight. Enjoy this video. And Steve, I hope your eye continues to heal. And thank you for the great job tonight. And
yep, thanks, Livia.
Looking forward to seeing you and everyone else next week. Have a great rest of your evening. Good night.
I'll see you.
Remember the swine flu scare of 1976? That was the year the U.S. government told us all that swine flu could turn out to be a killer that could spread across the nation. And Washington decided that every man, woman, and child in the nation should get a shot to prevent a nationwide outbreak, a pandemic. Well, 46 million of us obediently took the shot. And now 4,000 Americans are claiming damages from Uncle Sam amounting to $3.5 billion because of what happened when they took that shot. By far the greatest number of the claims, 2/3 of them, are for neurological damage or even death, allegedly triggered by the flu shot. We pick up the story back in 1976 when the threat posed by the swine flu virus seemed very real indeed.
This virus was the cause of a pandemic in 1918 and 1919 that resulted in over 500,000 deaths in the United States, as well as 20 million deaths around the world.
See how easy it is to...
Thus, the U.S. government's publicity machine was cranked into action to urge all America to protect itself against the swine flu menace.
Influenza is serious business. During major flu epidemics, millions of people are sick and thousands die. Well, this year you can get protection. The vaccines are safe, easy to take, and they can protect you against flu. So roll up your sleeve. Protect yourself.
One of those who did roll up her sleeve was Judy Roberts. She was perfectly healthy, an active woman, when in November of 1976, she took her shot. 2 weeks later, she says, she began to feel a numbness starting up her legs.
I joked about it at that time. I said I'll be numb to the knees by Friday if this keeps up. By the following week, I was totally paralyzed.
So completely paralyzed, in fact, that they had to operate on her to enable her to breathe. And for 6 months, Judy Roberts was a quadriplegic. The diagnosis? A neurological disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome, GBS for short. These neurological diseases are little understood. They affect people in different ways. As you can see in these home movies taken by a friend, Judy Roberts' paralysis confined her mostly to a wheelchair for over a year. But this disease can even kill. Indeed, there are 300 claims now pending from the families of GBS victims who died, allegedly as a result of the swine flu shot. In other GBS victims, the crippling effects diminish and all but disappear. But for Judy Roberts, progress back to good health has been painful and partial.
Now, I noticed that your smile, Judy, is a little bit constricted.
Yes, it is.
Is it different from what it used to be?
Very different. I have a greatly decreased mobility in my lips. And I can't drink through a straw on the right-hand side. I can't blow out birthday candles. I don't whistle anymore, for which my husband is grateful.
It may be a little difficult for you to answer this question, but have you recovered as much as you are going to recover?
Yes, this is it.
So you will now have a legacy of braces on your legs for the rest of your life?
Yes, the weakness in my hands will stay, and the leg braces will stay.
So Judy Roberts and her husband have filed a claim against the U.S. government. They're asking $12 million, though they don't expect to get nearly that much.
Judy, why did you take the flu shot?
I'd never taken any other flu shots, but I felt like this was going to be a major epidemic. And the only way to prevent a major epidemic of a really deadly variety of flu was for everybody to be immunized.
Where did this so-called deadly variety of flu, where did it first hit back in 1976? It began right here at Fort Dix in New Jersey in January of that year when a number of recruits began to complain of respiratory ailments, something like the common cold. An Army doctor here sent samples of their throat cultures to the New Jersey Public Health Lab to find out just what kind of bug was going around here. One of those samples was from a Private David Lewis who had left his sickbed to go on a forced march. Private Lewis had collapsed on that march, and his sergeant had revived him by mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. But the sergeant showed no signs of illness. A few days later, Private Lewis died.
If this disease is so potentially fatal that it's going to kill a young, healthy man, a middle-aged school teacher doesn't have prayer.
The New Jersey lab identified most of those soldiers' throat cultures as the normal kind of flu virus going around that year, but they could not make out what kind of virus was in the culture from the dead soldier and from 4 others who were sick. So they sent those cultures to the Federal Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia for further study. A few days later, they got the verdict: swine flu. But that much publicized outbreak of swine flu at Fort Dix involved only Private Lewis, who died, and those 4 other soldiers who recovered completely without the swine flu shot.
If I had known at that time that the boy had been in a sick bed, got up, went out on a forced march, and then collapsed and died, I would never have taken the shot.
The rationale for our recommendation was not on the basis of the death of a single individual, but it was on the basis that when we do see a change in the characteristics of the influenza virus, it is a massive public health problem in this country.
Dr. David Senser, then head of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, is now in private industry. He devised the swine flu program, and he pushed it.
You began to give flu shots to the American people in October of '76.
October 1st.
By that time, how many cases of swine flu around the world had been reported?
There had been several reported, but none confirmed. There had been cases in Australia that were reported by the press, by the news media. There were cases in...
None confirmed. Did you ever uncover any other outbreaks of swine flu anywhere in the world?
No.
Now, nearly everyone was to receive the shot in a public health facility where a doctor might not be present. Therefore, it was up to the CDC to come up with some kind of official consent form, giving the public all the information it needed about the swine flu shot. This form stated that the swine flu vaccine had been tested. What it didn't say was that after those tests were completed, the scientists developed another vaccine, and that was the one given to most of the 46 million who took the shot. That vaccine was called X53A.
Was X53A ever field tested?
I can't say. I would have to...
It wasn't.
I don't know.
Well, I would think that you're in charge of the program.
I would have to check the records. I haven't looked at this in some time.
The information form, the consent form, was also supposed to warn people about any risks of serious complications following the shot. But did it?
No, I had never heard of any reactions other than a sore arm, fever, this sort of thing.
Judy Roberts' husband, Gene, also took the shot.
Yes, I looked at that document. I signed it. Nothing on there said I was going to have a heart attack or I can get Guillain-Barré, which I never heard of.
What if people from the government, from the Center for Disease Control, what if they had indeed known about it? What would be your feeling?
They should have told us.
Did anyone ever come to you and say, you know something, fellas? There's the possibility of neurological damage if you get into a mass immunization program?
No.
No one ever did?
No.
Do you know Michael Hatwick?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Michael Hatwick directed the surveillance team for the swine flu program at the CDC. His job was to find out what possible complications could arise from taking the shot and to report his findings to those in charge.
Did you know ahead of time, Dr. Hatwick, that there had been case reports of neurological disorders, neurological illness, apparently associated with the injection of influenza vaccine?
Absolutely.
You did?
Yes.
How'd you know that?
By review of the literature.
So you told your superiors, the men in charge of the swine flu immunization program, about the possibility of neurological disorders?
Absolutely.
What would you say if I told you that your superiors say that you never told them about the possibility of neurological complications?
That's nonsense. I can't believe that they would say that they did not know that there were neurological illnesses associated with influenza vaccination. That simply is not true. We did know that.
I've said that Dr. Hatwick had never told me of his feelings on this subject.
Then he's lying.
I guess you would have to make that assumption.
Then why does this report from your own agency, dated July 1976, list neurological complications as a possibility?
I think the consensus of the scientific community was that the evidence relating neurologic disorders to influenza immunization was such that they did not feel that this association was a real one.
You didn't feel it was necessary to tell the American people that information?
I think that over the years we have tried to inform the American people as fully as possible.
As part of informing Americans about the swine flu threat, Dr. Sensor's CDC also helped create the advertising to get the public to take the shot.
Let me read to you from one of your own agency's memos planning the campaign to urge Americans to take the shot. The swine flu vaccine has been taken by many important persons, he wrote. Example, President Ford, Henry Kissinger, Elton John, Muhammad Ali, Mary Tyler Moore, Rudolph Nureyev, Walter Cronkite, Ralph Nader, Edward Kennedy, etc., etc. True?
I'm not familiar with that particular piece of paper, but I do know that at least of that group, President Ford did take the vaccination.
Did you talk to these people beforehand to find out if they planned to take the shot?
I did not know.
Did anybody?
I do not know.
Did you get permission to use their names in your campaign?
I do not know.
Mary, did you take a swine flu shot?
No, I did not.
Did you give them permission to use your name saying that you had or were going to?
Absolutely not. Never did.
Did you ask your own doctor about taking the swine flu shot?
Yes, and at the time he thought it might be a good idea. But I resisted it because I was leery of having the symptoms that sometimes go with that kind of inoculation.
So you didn't?
No, I didn't.
Have you spoken to your doctor since?
Yes.
And?
He's delighted that I didn't take that shot.
You're in charge. Somebody's in charge.
This
is your advertising strategy that I have a copy of here.
Who's it signed by?
This one is unsigned. But you'll acknowledge that it was your baby, so to speak.
It could have been from the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. It could be from CDC. I don't know. I'll be happy to take responsibility for it.
It's been 3 years now since you fell ill with GBS, right?
Right.
Has the federal government, in your estimation, played fair with you about your claim?
No, I don't think so. It seems to be dragging on and on and on. And really, no end in sight that I can see at this point.
With respect to the cases of Guillain-Barré, allegedly...
Former Secretary of HEW Joseph Califano, too, was disturbed that there was no end in sight. So a year and a half ago, he promised that Uncle Sam would cut the bureaucratic red tape for victims suffering from GBS and would pay up quickly.
We shouldn't hold them to an impossible or too difficult standard of proving that they were hurt. Even if we pay a few people a few $1,000s that might not have deserved it, I think justice requires that we promptly pay those people who do deserve it.
Who's making the decision to be so hard-nosed about settling?
Well, I assume the Justice Department is.
Griffin Bell before he left?
Well, the Justice Department agreed to the statement I made. It was cleared word for word with the lawyers in the Justice Department by my HEW lawyers.
And that statement said, in effect?
That statement said that we should pay Guillain-Barré claims without regard to whether the federal government was negligent if they resulted from the swine flu shot.
I think the government knows it's wrong.
If it drags out long enough, that people will just give up. Let it go.
I am a little more adamant in my thoughts than my wife is, because I told Judy to take the shot. She wasn't going to take it, and she never had shots. And I'm mad with my government because they knew the facts, but they didn't release those facts because if they had released them, the people wouldn't have taken. And they can come out tomorrow and tell me there's going to be an epidemic, and they can drop off like flies next to me. I will not take another shot that my government tells me to take.
Meantime, Judy Roberts and some 4,000 others like her are still waiting for their day in court.